Hi again. This morning I'm going to do some cutting, some slightly different to usual. I'm going to firstly start off with camellias. They're not the easiest of plants to grow from cuttings, but I've had a look at the instructions in the books and I'm going to try the way they suggested. So what we do is, firstly, I use these. I know a lot of people are using them now. I've been using them for years. Cut the tops off your milk bottles and then fill them with compost and use them as a little cold frame. So we'll start off with some camellias. I have, normally the time of year you take the shoot cuttings, or buds they say. These are shoots on the top, growing from the side, growing from the top. So what I've done, I've show you one I've done a little earlier on. If you want to grow it, it's a bit awkward here. Buds usually grow from in there, so that's what they call a bud cutting. So you usually trim it about there, and actually I have two buds on there, but I'll pull the lower one off. Cut it just above the bud there as well, and you have, usually the bud's a little bit bigger, you have a little bud in the middle there, and your long leaf here. You can cut the leaf quite short, and then what you do is you take your, this is one I did yesterday, did a couple of these yesterday, and you sink them. As you can see there, the bud is just above the top. So you take that and you push it down into the soil until the bud is literally level with the soil. And hopefully it will take a long time. You really need to have bottom heat if you can provide bottom heat, but if not, put them in something like this. Put them in a cool place, not direct sunlight, and you leave them for as long as you can, probably a couple of months, even maybe till the end of the summer, as long as they're in the shade. Cover them there. Just put the name on the side because obviously you can't see through them, and the date. So this is unusual for me. I've actually put the date there, and it's a camellia. These are just some of the camellias I grow in the garden. That one there is quite different to the others. It's a japonica type. So it's quite tight, but all the others are fairly loose, like Williamsii and those varieties there, we have much more loose petals. That was that type. Now, as I've said, with this one here, because the buds are so long, what I've tried on this bottle here is I've taken that cutting from there, like that. Again, I'm going to cut it, because you don't want the leaves, it'll just sort of lose moisture that way. I've got that one there, and I say this is not the way that everybody is told how to do it, it's just the way I'm trying. And I've put it in this one here, and as you can see, again, I took that and I put it just slightly below the soil, so I've got those two shoots there, but that one there. I will see how it works. Take as many as you can, because if you only take one or two, the chances are you will not get any to root, but if you take half a dozen, you may get just one. You can leave the tops on them, screw them on, or leave them open. These, I've got the tops on, which will keep the air in, but periodically then you would open them up to let some fresh air in, or take the top off, and just very, very damp, not wet. So that's your camellias there, and again, so if I've got that one down there, so they're done. I'm also going to do some Philadelphus, and it's the golden Philadelphus, which is usually grown for its foliage, not for its flowers, although it does flower. And this is cut off the main shoot, but as you can see, we've got some nice new shoots there, and it's beginning to get firm on the bottom there. So what I'll do is just pull that down like that there, take the bottom leaves off. I'll pinch it with my nails because it's quite soft. You can wait a little bit longer for these. You can do them probably next month and it'll be quite as well. Like that. Then you take the growing tip out from there, which is just pinch it out, and then you plant that, and I've done it on this one here. I've done a few in this one here, and you just take the plant as it is, make a little hole, put it in the side there, and if you plant them around the edge, the heat is better around the edge. And again, leave them like that. You have to cover them over, because obviously if you don't, they will dry out quite quickly. If you don't want to use these sort of containers, you can use plastic bags over the top, which a lot of people do. I put this back on afterwards because it can be a little bit fiddly. So you put those on the top, and again, check them every so often. again, people like to take geranium cuttings this time of the year, and I've got one here that's very woody inside, and really that's not going to be a good plant for this summer, so I'm going to cut this one down. But with geranium cuttings, if you take them a couple of hours before you plant them, this one was taken yesterday, but it's still quite firm, quite alive. You need to dry the end off there, and then once you pot it in your compost, that helps to keep it going. Take off the side shoots like that, there and there, and then all you do is you literally put it in around the pots, as many as you like around there. But this one, because I've said I'm going to cut it down, usually you take a non-flowering shoot, but it's very difficult this time of year because they nearly all flower. So if I cut, I'll show you now, if I cut this down to just below a leaf joint there, peel all these off. It does seem awful pulling off the flowers, but if you don't do it now, it'll be too late later on. Pull all the flowers off, leave that for about 2-3 hours or so in a cool place, and that will harden off, and then you do that. If you put them in there now like that, the chances are that that will stay wet and they will rot. Do not cover these with a polythene bag or any container. They need to be open to the air because otherwise they suffer badly from mold. So that's your geraniums. I'm afraid the table's rather full with all these things today. Trying to get through as many as we can. Hebes. I've got this lovely hebe here, and it was called Inspiration, and it's quite unusual. So I've already taken cuttings off this one, but what you will do is you'll just find any shoots like that, cut them any way you like, because there's very few sort of buds on the bottom that you can see. That sort of size, again, pinch the tip out like that. You've got your cutting, and I did these about a week ago. Again, they don't need to be covered. I don't cover these, I just leave them in a cool place in the garden, and they're looking quite firm, so obviously they're not suffering. And then you again just put them around the edge, and then you've got, hopefully in a couple of about 6 weeks time, they should have rooted, and you'll have another lot of hebes. And you can do that with all the varieties of hebes. It doesn't really matter whether this variety here and the larger ones with the variegated foliage, or the plain greens, any of them you can do now and cut them down. Last year we were all talking about plants called angel wings, which is this one here, Senecio angel wings. As you can see, this has survived the winter, but it's really looking very poor at the moment. So I'm going to take a cutting, and I shall cut this one down to about here, there, like that. That was one I took off earlier, so I'm going to cut that back there as well. So it looks drastic, but it will come back, and it will sort of grow and have plenty of foliage again for the summer. And then what I'll do with this one, take off all these dead leaves until I'm left with quite a decent, nice little bush here. I'm going to cut it. You can see little lines around there, and very often that's where the roots come from. So I'm going to cut it there, just below the leaf joint there. And again, gritty compost. This one, or compost with perlite or vermiculite in it. That one's got perlite in it. It helps to open up the soil. So you can put it, I'm going to put that one straight in there. You don't have to let the edge dry off. And I'm also going to use this little bit as well. I cut it a bit shorter, but I'll use that and do the same thing. Put it in there, and that's your container for those. And here is one I actually took last year. So they do grow. You see it's quite firm. And this one was taken probably about the end of last summer. So that again now is a new plant for this year, and you can do that with your plants for this summer. Then of course we've got fuchsias now beginning to grow. I've just bought this one, but as you can see, got nice growth on it, on the ends here. So what you need is to cut just below a leaf joint there. So I shall cut that one, and I'd say there's little shoots on the side there, but cut it right to the leaf joint there. You peel these off there, and again there. I'm not going to pinch the tip out yet because it's quite a small shoot, and I'll wait a little bit longer. Then you can literally put it into some compost. And again, if you mix vermiculite or vermiculite with that, that will help to break up the soil. And then just literally push them around the edge of the pot like that. But you will need to cover these either with a polythene bag or with the containers I've just shown you now. It's far easier to do it with the containers, but if you don't have containers, you can just literally cover the top like that, secure it then with with an elastic band or something around there, keep it in the shade, and it needs to be in the greenhouse at the moment or indoors, because we had a frost last night, so that would die out of doors. So you can use that to put your plants in there. Another unusual plant, which is an indoor plant but can be grown outdoors for the summer, it's called Echeveria, and it's a succulent, and it's these lovely sort of glaucous blue foliage. Easy to take cuttings. This is one from last year, so it isn't a good specimen of a plant. So I'm going to actually cut some of these off, and all I need to do is just literally break them. And as you can see, that's broken off there. I can cut that like that, pull off the lower leaves, and then again insert that into a gritty compost. I put everything into the same pot at the moment because I'll have too many to show you otherwise. That, once it's in the gritty compost, just put it in, leave it, keep it indoors or in the greenhouse. Do not cover it with a polythene bag or keep it misted. That will dry out like it's by itself. So that again, something you can actually do throughout the next couple of weeks, and you can plant these out in the summertime. So you've got a dry area, a dry pot, they do well in little scree beds or rock gardens. I meant to have shown you, this was one of the golden Philadelphus I took last year, which is similar to the sizes I've taken today, but these were last year's growth, and now you can see, and this is how you can tell that they're growing, is it's put on all that growth this spring. So that one is definitely rooted, and you can check all your other plants to make sure that they are well rooted. I was also asked about lavenders. So ideal now really to try and have a look for some nice shoots. There's a nice one there, big one there, and if you just, that's where it was growing, I've cut it off, just peel it down from the side like that, take off all the lower shoots, and you want it about 2 to 3 inches long. Pinch out the tip like that. You've got a nice little stem there with a bit of a heel on it, but they don't have to have a heel, you can cut them there. And again, gritty compost, they need gritty compost, and in a cool place. You can cover these with a polythene bag or some container, because they do need to be moist because of the young growth on the top. So you do that with all the shoots that you have there. Let's say a few more there, and hopefully these will grow, but take more than you want, more than you need, because you're never going to guarantee that you will actually get all of them to root. So do quite a few, put them in the pot, cover them over. And what else have we got? We get a lot of questions about hydrangeas, and usually I take hydrangea cuttings at any time. I'm not the usual sort of gardener that does everything when the time is right. I do it when I have time. This was one cutting that was taken about year before last, and as you can see there's plenty of growth on it, but I want to make it bushy. So what I'm going to do is cut it down to about here, there, take that one off, and the same with this tall one here, although it's a bit, I'm going to cut it to there, but I'm not going to waste these because I hate waste, and even if it's the wrong time of the year, it's still worth trying anyway. So I'm going to peel all these off the side like this, pull them down, and if you pull them you break a little bit of the stem as well, which means that they're not hollow, they've got a stem, a firm stem inside, and just do that to all of them. Then take the lower leaves off like that. Again, pinch out the tip because you want it to push out, and that's the sort of cutting you're looking for. If they are bigger, it doesn't really matter, that's a bit bigger, but that's what you're looking for leaf joint there, leaf buds, solid on the bottom and just leaves on the top. And again, if you want to cut the tops off there like that, put it in your compost, and again cover it with a polythene bag and whatever you have, and do that with all of them. I shall do these a little later on. So you do that with all of them, and hopefully you'll have more cuttings for this year. And this one then was a Daphne, and they're not the easiest of plants to take cuttings from, but if you look for soft growth like that, it's semi-ripe, it is. And again, if you peel it down like that, they tend to come down quite far. Trim the bottom off there, take the lower leaves off, leave the tip at the moment like that, put it in your compost around the edges. Again, cover it with a polythene bag, and it may grow. There's no guarantee because they're not the easiest to plant. But that was the flowers we had, and this one flowers very early, and the perfume is incredible with them. So hopefully some of these things will help for this time of the year. I will show you a little later on all the seeds and cuttings I grew last year. One thing I have forgotten, if you see this on your camellia bush, it would normally be closed. It would be around like a hard apple. That's a seed pod, and this one has already, the seeds have fallen out, so it was too late picking it. But they can be grown from seed. It doesn't always work. I have grown a few of them from seed, but when you pick them when they're just opening, get the seeds out, put them into sort of gritty compost, put them under a hedge somewhere or somewhere shaded, and just forget about them for this season. So hopefully that will be a little bit of help, and I shall sort the next one out in a couple of days.